Away from all this, even as the numbers remain high, India has decided to take a big gamble starting tomorrow. The government of India is starting possibly the biggest ever evacuation exercise since the Gulf War in 1990, planning to evacuate thousands of Indians across the globe. At least 64 international flights will be operated from Thursday in phase 1 to evacuate Indians stranded in 12 countries, including the Gulf, US, United Kingdom. How is this exercise going to take place? It's our top story tonight.
Vande Bharat, a massive drive to evacuate Indians stranded across the globe. Beginning Thursday, India will press 64 flights and 14 warships into service to bring back 90,000 tourists, students and workers. In phase 1, Indians will be evacuated from Gulf countries and Maldives. In the next phase, Indian nationals stuck in United Kingdom, US, Iran, Malaysia, Singapore and Philippines will be extracted. Those looking to return to India will have to pay up. Different fares have been fixed by the government for different routes. The evacuation flight for those stranded will cost anywhere between rupees 15,000 to 1 lakh. Two Indian Navy ships, INS Jalashwa and INS Magar, are already moving to Maldives, and INS Shardul is setting sail to Dubai as part of the sea evacuation drive. The MHA has also readied a repatriation plan for all those who are brought back. They will be quarantined for a minimum of 14 days in a government facility and will be subjected to regular health checks for COVID symptoms. All returnees will have to download the Arogya Setu app. A major chunk of the first returnees will be coming to Kerala. The state has arranged 2.5 lakh beds to accommodate the huge influx of expats. Kerala has written to centre seeking compulsory COVID tests for all flyers before they board the plane.
വിമാനത്തിൽ ആളുകളെ എത്തിക്കുന്നത് ഇത് വലിയ അപകടം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുന്ന രീതിയാണ്. ഒരു വിമാനത്തിൽ 200ഓളം പേരാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുക.
The mammoth task of bringing back Indian nationals begins on the 7th of May, with 14,800 Indian nationals to be brought back in the first phase in 64 aircrafts and 3 Indian Navy ships from 12 countries, which includes the UK and the United States of America. In West Asia, we're looking at Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. In the East, we're looking at Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, and in the neighborhood, Indian nationals would be brought back from Bangladesh and from the Maldives. A Herculean task is being carried out in the Vande Bharat mission to bring back Indian nationals safely home. In New Delhi, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Okay, how is this massive evacuation exercise, possibly the biggest in the history of post-independence India, going to be carried out? I'm joined by a special guest. Joining me now is one of the men in charge, Hardeep Singh Puri, Minister for Civil Aviation. Appreciate your joining us here on India Today, Mr. Puri. The big question is, as your government prepares for this large evacuation program, how risky is it, considering a large group of Indians will be coming back for the first time since COVID-19 broke out, since the lockdown was imposed, the risk factors?
Thank you very much, Rajdeep. Let me try to answer that question by stating upfront that any activity during this COVID period where you are dealing with an invisible enemy is not without risks. However, the steps that we have taken so far, the early lockdown, bold and courageous decisions to ensure that the lockdown was severe, effective, and in also some respects harsh, also has to take into account the fact that at some time or the other you have to open up, and in this case we are opening up to repatriate and evacuate those of our citizens who find themselves stranded and are in distress in countries abroad. Many of them have visas which have expired. Some of them are otherwise ready to be deported. Some others went there prior to the lockdown and need to return. So these are priorities that our missions will draw. Since we have no option and we are obliged, because they are citizens of India, to bring them back, we will take all the safeguard measures that can possibly be taken to ensure that the risk is minimized. Having said that, I can tell you, no one in my position or anyone who has even a nodding acquaintance with the issue will say that it is entirely without risk. But we have put in place standard operating procedures. The passengers, when they arrive at their destinations, they will be subjected to a mandatory 14-day government quarantine. And we hope that as a result of these steps that have been taken, the risk will be as little and that we will have taken the necessary precautions.
Mr. Puri, the reason I'm asking you about risk is because there are already concerns being voiced by the Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. He's written to the Prime Minister. He is worried, of course, because there are a large number of people coming in from the Gulf who live in Kerala. He believes that there should be pre-medical screening of all passengers before they board a plane or ship. Is that part of your standard protocol? Because the fear is once they get on the flight, if they are symptomatic, forget about being asymptomatic, but if they are symptomatic and spread the contagion and carrying COVID, they could spread the virus. Is that a real concern? Will there be pre-medical screening?
Well, Rajdeep, let me just share with you one overriding concern, which is that none of these arrangements which have been put in place have been put in place unilaterally by any agency. These have been done in consultation with the concerned state governments. And it's only when the state governments have been ready and have told us that they have made the arrangements both for the reception and the quarantining of these, that these flight plan for the first week has been put in place. Therefore, it is my expectation that the coordination which has been done by the central government along with the state governments, the health authorities, etc., that we can proceed with the effective system of safeguards as we possibly can.
Will there be, I reiterate, sir, will that standard protocol involve medical screening before you board a flight or ship starting tomorrow?
Well, I can tell you that insofar as when on arrival, yes, on that point of departure also. But you see, if somebody is asymptomatic, what do you do? There is a certain risk that you take. But therefore, passengers will travel at their own risk. I mean, this has been made clear to everyone. But the government is placed in a situation where it has to assume its obligation vis-a-vis its citizens, people who are put in a situation of being stranded or in distress. And with the cooperation of the state governments. Now, I can share with you, some of the state governments were not ready. Therefore, they wanted a little more time. So the scheduling of the flights has been done in such a way that they will first go to places where the authorities are ready. Now, I can share with some other details. We had to delay some of these flights a little because we wanted also to ensure that the Air India crew, which is going to man those flights, will also be screened prior to boarding their aircraft. So there is screening at multiple levels.
Right.
And so we will do the best we can. But as I said, in a situation which is like this, which is unprecedented and sui generis, there are some risks.
What happens, Mr. Minister, when they land? Will they go in for quarantine, as you're saying, for 14 days? And if so, do we have the adequate quarantine facilities in place? Someone has just asked me from Pune, will the passengers be put in a hotel? Will they be put in a government-mandated quarantine center? Has that decision been left to each individual state government?
Rajdeep, I was very clear when I had the first press conference yesterday by video conference, and in the tweet that I put out, I use the words exactly: government mandated paid quarantine. Now, the finer details have to be worked out by the state government. It's not for the central government to micromanage those, but paid facilities which will presumably be of a certain standard of hygiene, etc. Those precise details will be worked out by the state government, but these will be paid quarantine facilities.
Now your notification, Mr. Minister, says that priority is being given to Indians in distress, people whose visas have expired, people with medical emergency, pregnant women, elderly. Are all of them being asked to pay? We are told that Air India is charging almost full fares, unlike during the Gulf War evacuation when citizens were brought in free.
Rajdeep, this is a service being provided by the national carrier, and a charge has been levied because it is ultimately the taxpayers' money. As you know, I mean, this is an open secret. Air India requires a injection of liquidity of about 500-600 crores every month, and therefore we have levied a charge which is reasonable. On the London-Delhi sector or equivalent number of flying hours, 50,000 rupees, United States, India, approximately 100,000, and so on. You will also appreciate that the aircraft, when they go out, we have opened up the possibility of these aircraft carrying some Indians who are professionals, normally resident there, who need to return, of carrying them. But the difficulty is that some of these countries are not taking nationals other than their own back. For instance, in the Gulf, there are 6 countries which are not taking them. So Indians from Dubai who are here and who are stranded are not being allowed to go back. So the aircraft will go almost empty on the way out to some of these places and then carry the number of passengers back. So it has to be financially, it still not be viable, but we are levying a charge. Otherwise, you know, the airlines are already under challenge, whether it's the national carrier or the other civil aviation carriers. So the charge is a compulsory charge is being levied.
No, you know, the reason I'm asking you this, Mr. Minister, because there is a humanitarian angle presumably to this operation. Let's say I am someone in the Gulf, I've lost my job, I don't have any income, my visa may have expired, I'm desperate. In such a situation, if I'm a migrant labor working in the Gulf, do I have to pay for my tickets? If this is a service, is this service only for those who can really afford to pay?
Well, you know, you cannot run airlines on the basis of that differentiation. In an ideal state, where the state had resources which were unlimited, you could say that in the case of a natural calamity or something where a situation like the coronavirus has suddenly descended on us, we should be carrying out this free service. It is just physically not possible because the airline also has to be sustained, and therefore whether it is a private airline or the national carrier, but the charge which is being levied is a reasonable charge. It's not a charge which was taking advantage of the situation and the fare has gone up many times. No, this is an average kind of a cost of a fare which is being levied.
Mr. Minister, in the first phase, starting tomorrow, you're bringing in 64 flights, approximately 15,000 passengers over a week. But let's be very clear, there are many others who are stuck outside the countries which you have chosen for this first phase. Japan, Austria, someone has written into me. I have a friend who has sent me a message from Australia. There are students from SP Jain College who are stuck there for the last month. They say they are running out of money. What happens to them? As many as 87,000 students, according to one report, are stuck in different parts. What would you like to tell those students in particular?
Rajdeep, the working numbers or the figure on which we started planning this exercise initially was that a total of approximately 190,000 of our citizens stranded in different parts of the world would want to come back. When we got into the actual planning, we reached the conclusion that the number would be far higher than that. In fact, I can share with you something that I said elsewhere when my colleague, the ambassador in Abu Dhabi, opened his portal at 3 o'clock in the morning, and by 11 o'clock he had more than 100,000 applicants. What we have outlined for the first week is just the initial plan to bring back 14,800 people on 64 flights. We have similar schedules for the weeks after 13th April ready, but we will review the operation of this plan in the next 2 or 3 days based on our actual experience. It is entirely possible that we will ramp up the numbers significantly. But our ability to carry more people back is also directly contingent on the state governments being willing and them displaying their ability to host and receive those of our citizens who are stranded outside.
So what do I tell people who write to me now, the student from Australia or those from countries other than the ones you have chosen in the first phase?
You can tell them that they will be covered in the subsequent weeks. And I would be, Air India will happily share with them when the flight from Australia will start.
That's very reassuring, Mr. Minister. I'm getting a lot of interesting questions even as we are speaking. Lots of people are tweeting with questions. One of them has an interesting question. Mr. Minister, why are you not directing airlines to fully refund customers for flights that have been cancelled due to the lockdown over the last 2 months? Flights which were either booked before the lockdown started, the world over, full refunds are being made. Why is that not happening in India, Mr. Minister? Is a question I've just been asked.
Rajiv, the issue of refund of tickets is a slightly complicated one. I am very clear as the minister that anyone who has booked during the phase of the lockdown or just prior to the lockdown and he got stranded, I issued an advisory saying that the refund must be total. Since some airlines did not follow that advisory, which they are expected to, I went to the extent of issuing a directive. And now, that directive makes it absolutely clear that if just before the lockdown, you booked something and as a result of the lockdown, you cannot travel, you will get the full refund. But the airline ticketing business is a very complicated one. Let me try and explain. Somebody might take advantage of the flexibility that the airline fare structure has. We have a deregulated system of airfares where the concerned airline is required to show on its website the minimum fare and the maximum fare it could charge.
Right.
Now, if you're traveling, let's say Delhi, Mumbai, and you take advantage of the apex fare, which is 60 days prior to booking, and the fare, and you are only traveling several months later, obviously the airlines are finding it difficult to reimburse those fares. But now the matter is sub judice, it has gone to the Supreme Court. There's a public interest litigation which has been filed in the Supreme Court. We are very clear from the government side. We have to also realize that when a passenger books, he or she books through a travel agency. That agency has an arrangement with the airlines. So you to come to a blanket assertion that everybody must have the fund refunded. Some countries have passed laws. In the European Union, for instance, they have said that the issue of refunds be looked at more sympathetically. Now we are seized of the problem. Insofar as passengers stranded on account of the lockdown are concerned, we first issued an advisory and then a directive that refunds should be provided in totality.
Mr. Puri, another question is coming in from a friend who is an OCI. He's a friend of mine. He's in London. He wants to desperately come back to Mumbai. He says his mother is seriously ill. Can he avail the facilities or does he have to wait as the registration process continues? The first preference is given to those with full Indian passports.
No, well, I can tell you that we would be looking at all such cases. We try to look at them sympathetically. But it's a question of where you come in the prioritization. Now, the High Commission will have to take a view on that. As far as we are concerned, this is essentially a service put in place for stranded Indian nationals in distress. Now, I know an overseas citizen of Indian origin comes close to that. As I said, we'd be happy to address that issue.
You know, Mr. Minister, I can understand the scale of the problem. There are about, according to one figure, almost 2 lakh Indians stuck abroad, 1,90,000 some say. Is the plan to bring all of them back at the end of the day in the next 1 month, or will the process therefore be expanded, is what I want to know, starting tomorrow, over phases?
Well, I am deliberately avoiding the temptation of either sticking to a number, 190,000, or the timeline. If the entire process of evacuation, which is commencing tomorrow with 3 flights, 2 from Abu Dhabi and 1 from Singapore, if it proceeds in a reasonably satisfactory manner, both in terms of the attendant health risks and in terms of the logistical arrangements for quarantine, we will be tempted to increase the numbers after a few days.
Right.
In fact, we, instead of bringing back, people in 2,000-3,000, etc., we could increase it substantially.
At the moment, you have just Air India involved in this process. Will you include private airlines? Ajay Singh, CEO, MD of SpiceJet, suggested his airline was willing. So will you include private airlines as well in this evacuation?
See, I think the problem is not private airlines. From whatever I've heard of the statements made by the private airlines, they're quite happy to join in the effort. Our problem will be at the point of reception. When they come and land at the airports, I am totally confident about my airports, because I think they have now got used to the idea. And when we brought in something like 14 lakh passengers, except 1 or 2 days when there was queuing at Delhi airport, and that was also because we had introduced a second layer of screening and that problem arose. Airports will manage, but the state government, the authorities of the state government must be ready with the quarantine. So we will try, we are in constant touch with the state government. The Ministry of External Affairs is the Cabinet Secretary, and therefore we will, from the civil aviation side, ramp up the number of flights as soon as we feel reasonably confident that the arrangements at the receiving end are in place.
You know, the focus therefore will come starting tomorrow also on quarantine centers in India, how effective they are, whether the infrastructure can hold so many groups coming. I come back to it. Are you confident that there are enough to accommodate this large influx? Is that being done, or is that being done entirely in coordination with states, as you earlier said? Are you reasonably hopeful that the state governments will measure up to the task, or will there be wide variations between states?
Yeah, they have to measure up to the task. As I said, we can only base, the flight scheduling has been arranged after receiving a comfort level from the state government. And if it works, you see, there are a number of issues involved. The number of people wanting to come back, the number of people, it may not be, the figures may ultimately surprise us. Initially, a lot of people want to come back, but when they hear that they may have to go into 14 days paid quarantine, they may start having second thoughts. So let us see how the numbers work out. I was speaking to the CMD of Air India. I said, because, we only decided last evening. I said, how are the flights looking? Well, the flights which he's mentioned to me from Abu Dhabi, they were already 60-70%. People had already paid the tickets, etc. I will review it twice a day, and we'll see how it goes. If things are moving smoothly and there's a comfort level at the reception point, at the destination, we will increase the numbers.
What about, Mr. Minister, Indians who are stuck here? There are Indians who are stuck here who have to go abroad, back to their jobs, or there could be foreign nationals who are stuck in India at the moment. Will you be using these flights to send them back? Can they also avail these facilities and go back to their destinations where they live?
Well, insofar as foreign nationals are concerned, the airlines of those countries are already running relief flights. So foreign nationals are not experiencing much difficulty. We had opened up these flights which are going abroad to bring our own citizens back to those of our citizens who are ordinarily resident abroad, those who have long-term visas, well, more than 12 months, those who have jobs. We have opened up, and all these flights are open for booking. But we have an additional problem, Rajdeep. Many of these countries are now not taking back any person who is not their national. For instance, the United States and United Kingdom, we have no difficulty. Anyone who wants to travel on the a plane which is going to bring passengers back from Newark or San Francisco can do that. Equally to London. But the countries in the Middle East, for instance, the Gulf,
Right.
I have a list of countries. They are, for the moment, their policy is not to take anyone other than their nationals back. That's also the case with some countries in Southeast Asia. They are only taking their nationals back.
Let me come, Mr. Minister, at the end to the really big question for many of us living in India. When will you resume domestic commercial operations? When will I be able to travel to Mumbai, let's say, to meet my mother? Or when can I go back to my hometown in Goa? When can any Indian who's stuck somewhere in India use air facilities? When do you expect commercial private airlines to start operating in India, Mr. Minister?
Rajdeep, I want to be as optimistic I can be. My answer to you, the one I want to give, is sooner rather than later. But I will qualify that by saying we will do it at the earliest, depending on the behavior of the virus, because we must be ready then also to open up rail traffic, to open up other forms of domestic traffic. And it also depends on, surely we cannot conduct air operations between two red zones. So we'll see how it operates. But I'm hoping within the next week or 10 days, we will get clarity on that. And then, as I keep saying, in terms of public statement, those decisions remain to be taken.
I can understand, Mr. Minister, you want to see the progress of the virus. But for now, couldn't you do, for example, green zone to green zone flights? You can't do it between two red zones, but you could easily do green zone to green zone. The trains have started moving stranded migrant labor. Why can't you have flights for those who can afford it, who want to travel domestically and are stranded somewhere?
Well, there is one possibility which I heard somebody on one of your shows suggesting that. We are willing to consider any possibilities. But as it is, it has to be, even when you carry out that facility, it will have to be a paid service, because the gentleman who was offering you that suggestion on your show will not want to run a pro bono service. So we will look at all this in the coming days, depending on our experience with what we have ongoing.
But are you hopeful, Mr. Minister, that in the next month, if I speak to you 1 month from now, we would have resumed in some way private commercial operations within India? Because as you know, that is critical to get the economy moving again, unless we start air operations in this country.
Yes, let me say I am hopeful. I am hopeful, and I would be quite happy to. I'm not a betting man. If I were to say that, I've always said that yes, in the month of May, after 15th May, we will start critically examine these things. We will probably open up in a calibrated manner, maybe first 25% of the sectors, then slowly increase it, and then exactly what you are saying, before too long, we will have reached a substantial opening up of domestic civil aviation.
That is big news that you're giving us, Mr. Minister, that we will open up, you hope, in a calibrated manner, 25% possibly, and you're going to review it from the 15th of May, commercial private air operations. Well, we wish you luck. You will need all the luck for this massive operation. I appreciate your joining us today here, Minister. Good luck on this big mission, Vande Bharat, that you've undertaken.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.